the rights of the creditor and the duty of the debtor. So, we have the specific and the generic obligations. So, specific obligations, we have the creditor's rights. So, when a debtor is required to deliver a specific thing, the creditor has the following rights if the debtor fails to comply. So, we have the specific performance. So, the creditor can demand that the debtor delivers the exact thing agreed upon. So, example, if Anna sells a specific painting to Ben but refuses to hand it over, so Ben can go to court and force Anna to deliver the exact painting. So, second, we have the rescission or the cancellation of contract. So, the creditor can cancel the contract if the debtor does not fulfill the obligation. So, for example, if a car dealer promised to deliver a specific car but he fails to deliver it, so the buyer can cancel the contract and get their money back. So, third, we have the demand payment for loss. So, if the debtor fails to deliver the specific item and it causes damage to the creditor can claim the compensation. So, for example, if a rear violin was supposed to be delivered but got damaged due to the seller negligence, so the buyer can sue for the damages. So, and lastly, the fourth one, we had the benefits or the earning from the thing. So, if the specific thing like land, animals, or investment generates income before the delivery, so the creditor may claim those earnings. So, for example, if a seller delays delivering a rental property but collects rent in meantime, so the buyer may demand the rent collected. So, debtor's duties in a specific obligation. So, when a debtor is required to deliver a specific thing, they must do the following. So, first, we have the preserve the thing. So, the debtor must take care of the item until it is delivered. So, for example, if John sells his rare watch to Lisa, he must keep it safe and undamaged until Lisa receives it. So, the second one, we have the deliver of the fruit. So, the earning or the benefits. So, if the item produces income such as rent, interest, or crops, so the debtor must also deliver those earnings. So, for example, if Mark sells a mango from Sarah but delays the delivery, so he must give her the mangoes harvested during the delay. So, the third one, so we have the deliver the accession or the attachment or improvement. So, it means if the item has extra features or attachments, so this must be also delivered. So, for example, a seller agrees to sell a house with a garage, so they cannot remove the garage before delivering the house. So, last, we have the pay the pay damages if liable. So, if the debtor fails to deliver or causes harm, they must pay for any losses. So, for example, if Peter agrees to sell a classic car to David but damage it before delivery, so it has a damages before it delivers. So, Peter must compensate David for the loss. So next, we have the generic obligations. So, creditors' rights. So, first, we have the creditor has the right to demand the fulfillment of obligation, meaning the debtor must deliver something of the same kind and quality. So, for example, if you order 10 bags of rice, so the seller must deliver 10 bags, but not necessarily a specific set of bags. So, under the creditor's right, we have the performance. So, the debtor must fulfill the obligation by delivering something that matches the description. So, not necessarily a particular item. So, for example, if a bookstore promised to deliver a copy of novel, so any copy of that novel will do. So, second, we have a third party. A third party can perform the obligation as long as meets the required specifications. So we have this means we have another option. So for example, if a seller is unable to deliver 100 chairs, so another supplier can provide the same type of chairs to fulfill the contract. So the third one, we have the damages. So if the debtor fails to deliver, the creditor can demand compensation for any losses suffered. So for example, if a supplier fails to deliver 500 sacks of cement on time, causing a construction delay, so the creditor or the buyer can demand the damages. And lastly, we have the no extinguishment. So the obligation does not disappear even if the specific items the debtor intended to deliver are lost. So because similar items can always be found. So for example, a factory to deliver a factory promised to deliver 100 liters of milk, but their current stock was spoiled, so they must still deliver milk from the other sources. So, and we have the debtor's responsibility in generic obligations. So first, we have the quality. The debtor must deliver an item of at least average quality upon the class type agreed upon. So for example, if a supplier is required to deliver 50 kilos of sugar, so they cannot give a low quality or spoiled sugar. So it must be a reasonable market quality. So next, the second one, we have the liable for damages. So if the debtor fails to deliver or delivers defective goods, they must be held for damages.
Understanding joint obligations and solidary obligations. In joint obligations, each debtor is liable only for their share of the debt. The creditor must pursue each debtor individually. If one debtor defaults, the creditor bears the loss. When it comes to proportionate share, each debtor is responsible for a specific portion. And when it comes to individual pursuit, meaning if the creditor wants to seek a legal case, then the creditor must seek each debtor separately. And when it comes to limited liability, default by one does not affect the other's share. One example of these joint obligations is this scenario. Alex, Caleb, and John borrowed a money from a bank amounting to 900,000 through a loan. In joint obligations, as stated earlier, each debtor is only responsible for their share of the debt, meaning the bank can only demand 300,000 from each person. If Alex and Caleb pays their part of the debt, they are no longer liable for any amount left to pay. If John, on the other hand, fails to pay his part, the bank cannot collect the entire amount to Caleb and Alex, meaning each person is only responsible for their respective portions. In solidary obligations, each debtor is responsible for the entire debt. The creditor can demand full payment from any single debtor. Payment by one discharges the obligations for all, meaning it has full liability, single demand, and debt discharge. Solidary obligations is very opposite from joint obligations. While in joint obligations, debtors are only responsible for their portion, while in solidary obligations, multiple debtors or creditors are involved, and each debtor is responsible for the entire obligation. The creditor can demand the entire amount from any single debtor, who is liable for the whole debt, but can seek compensation from others after paying. Now consider a scenario where Alex, Bob, and Charlie decided to jointly sign a lease agreement for a commercial space and it's for their business. The total rent is $6,000 per month, and they've agreed to this as solidary obligation. So in this case, the landlord can demand the full 6,000 from any one of them. If Alex pays the total amount for that month, he can later seek reimbursement from Bob and Charlie for their respective shares of 2,000 each. Reimbursement means repaying or repayment, meaning Bob and Charlie would have to pay back Alex if they have the capacity to pay back.